好，同志们，好，同志们，我们为的来的，我们是中国现在，China now. Friend or foe, war or peace? That's what we ask every week here on China Now with your gang of two, Nan Su, who is the senior investigative reporter for Epoch Times, and yours truly, Michael Olson, who was dissuaded from becoming a China hand by the great helmsman himself, Chairman Mao. And so here we are today talking about China and the United States and asking the big question, China now, friend or foe, war or peace? What do you think, Nansu, friend or foe?
Yeah, we already say many times, China is our enemy. That's it, period.
I agree with Nansu's assertion. I do think that China um, make war. You know, when I was teaching my daughter's grade school class Chinese, one of the expressions that I taught them, 中国人和美国人是好朋友, which is Chinese and Americans are good friends. I do think that Chinese and Americans are good friends, but not so much government good friends. I think that the Chinese Communist Party is an enemy of the way of life of the United States. And I also think that the CCP is an enemy of the people of China. But that's just how I've come to see the world. Nansu?
Yeah, well, the communist regime in China, it's the biggest threat to peace and humanity in the entire human history. That's how I look at it.
Well, and a good way of seeing that in action, I guess, is to have a look at how China acts around the world. One of the most recent examples occurred in the waters off Taiwan. And of course, if China's going to display its wolf warrior diplomacy, this is a place to do it. So recently, two Chinese ships intruded into the restricted waters of Taiwan-controlled island in the South China Sea, and that, of course, is China. The Taiwan people call it a malicious escalation. And this, of course, is the gray zone warfare that China is conducting throughout the South Pacific, in the islands, in the Spratly Islands of the South China Sea, which are jointly claimed by just about everybody in the area, including Taiwan, uh, Vietnam, the Philippines, and China. We're all claiming that they own these Spratly Islands. So what China has been doing is muscling its way around throughout these South Pacific islands. And as we've been contending in Iran, China's been escalating this wolf warrior diplomacy throughout the South Pacific there. And is China telling us something, Nansu, with this behavior?
Well, this behavior has been there for a long, long time. It's a daily basis, right? So the China is being like on East China Sea, Japan Sea, Taiwan Strait, all around Taiwan, South China Sea, and even Tasman Sea between Australia and New Zealand. So this is this kind of a provocative behavior. Basically, that's how they try to show their muscle and the trying to impose their coercive relation with all the countries around China.
And you brought up a very interesting, in our pre-show discussions, you brought up a very interesting story that I think relates directly to this wolf warrior behavior. And it's a story about China's subsidy machine, how China's subsidy machine is reshaping global capitalism. So let's pick up that story, Nansu, and talk about how China's industries are a lot like its navy steaming around the South Pacific, muscling into everybody's territory.
Uh, that's a report published by OECD, Organization of Economic Cooperations and Developments. That's nonprofit organization that's basically watching out the international economy and trade. And what they say it's China's government subsidies to their manufacturers. It's at least three times, up to eight times to all the nations. So if think about it, if they, if they compensate their manufacturers at least three times and up to eight times as much as what every other government is doing in the entire world. How are you going to compete with them?
Well,
See,
and what it's suggesting, the title of the piece, China's subsidy machine is reshaping global capitalism. Capitalism is about the most efficient distribution of resources. Whoever can make the most for the least should win. But if you're subsidizing a company 8 times more than your competitor is subsidizing their companies, how is that free trade? How is that capitalism? That's more mercantilism than it is capitalism.
well, think
And
about this. This is how this free trade become a total joke, right?
exactly.
And then that's why once in the era of global economy, when the Western countries start cheating China with DEI, that's how the things totally screw up. You treat them with DEI, and then they subsidize their manufacturers three to eight times more than you do. How and I remember, there was a lot of people they're so much in love with free trade, and isn't that they're just making fool of themselves.
Or they
They
have
just
a
all they are they stick their head into the sand. They're saying, "Oh, we have free trade." You don't.
you don't. And perhaps they have some money in manufacturing in China, and therefore they're reaping the rewards of this tremendous head start that China has given its industries. And what China has been very good with here in the last few years under Xi Jinping is that Xi Jinping has said that we need to focus on quality manufacturing. So what they've done is that they've identified those industries that the world is relying on and subsidizing them to up to 8 times more than the subsidies other countries will give them. Take, for example, photovoltaic cells, solar energy, and EVs, BYD, for example, the uh, maker of electric vehicles. They've all been subsidized to huge extents, like the OECD suggests up to 8 times more. How are you supposed to compete with them? So it's a lot like the Chinese Navy ships taking over the Southeast Pacific, Southwest Pacific. How are you supposed to how are you supposed to compete with 40,000 ships?
So basically, what you can see here is that the Chinese Communist regime, it's a regime basically. They're able to mobilize the whole nation of resources, the resource of entire nation and put it behind one industry after another. And
Strategic industries.
yeah, well, no, no, no. From the very beginning, it's not only strategic. That's not how they develop all these 20 years. I mean, at the very beginning, we saw these cheap products, t-shirts,
Sure.
socks, shoes, sunglasses, hats, jeans from China. They're all enjoying these subsidies. So what they have been doing is this they strategically put all these resources after one industry after another and have these industries go out of China to beat their same industries all around the world. So you can compete with them once they become dominant in one industry, then they will move forward to put the source of entire nation after another industry. And so that's how you see at the very from the very beginning, we allow them to join WTO. We start seeing all these low-end products coming from China, and it gradually changed to not just clothes or something you wear anymore. It becomes dishwasher, washer, dryer, and air conditioners, and solar panels, and batteries, and robotic machines, and even AI now. So
Yes. And
so
especially
so the
AI now.
right. And of course EV, right? They made the two-thirds of EV in the whole world right now. So now the electrical vehicle. Now think about this. This is how they have been doing. They put not just the one in strategic industry. They have been repeatedly doing to every industry. That's how one industry after another one we see the American manufacturers moving to China because we can win.
So China sees its industries as weapons of war.
That's it. It's a war.
Kind of like battleships of industry, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's one industry after another. It's a war. It's a continuous war behavior. And
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 we
then
were
we are
always
and then we are in our dreams talking about a free trade. This is
and
just
we were
completely
told that
nonsense.
yeah, we were told even in the Reagan administration that we should relish free trade because we're going to get stuff cheaper from those people who can grow it more efficiently than we can grow it. Well, it's not really that they were more efficient than we were. It's that industries were subsidized, were paid to be more efficient than we
So
were.
that they can destroy our industry, right? And now think about what's the goal and what they have achieved. That's more scare. Now, a lot of so we Americans, this is the key. You looking back, we Americans, we took it for granted in our whole life. We because we were born in the industrialized nation, we grew up in the industrialized nation, and we live our entire life in the industrialized nation. We have totally forgotten how hard a nation could become industrialized. So what happened is, the prior to World War II, there was only 25 countries became industrialized based on International Money Fund. Basically, the United States, Canada, all the Western European countries, Australia, New Zealand, plus Russia and Czech Republic and Japan. So those the 25 nations. Now, from the end of World War II to the end of the last century, that's a 55 years. That 55 years, the whole world only saw four nations became industrialized. That's South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore. There's one more, and Israel. So you see, the whole 55 years, more than half a century long of time, only four countries became industrialized. And that's so basically that's total 29. And now we see China. we industrialized China. We made it happen
And
because of
China is deindustrializing us and
and
everybody else.
and not the China deindustrialized our United States, that we deindustrialize ourselves.
We in
We did it
deindustrialize.
because we think it's dirty. We want to get rid of it. See, we gave it to China. So this is how totally, screw up this system is. We deindustrialized ourselves and make China industrialized. So now we see how this threat has become. Uh, it's just because we took it for granted. We all totally forgot how difficult for a country to become industrialized. Now that we see all the difficulties that to make the United States to be reindustrialized, because all these things, this craftsmanship, they're passed down from one generation to another. Once you stop doing it, couple generations, you forgot. You don't know how to do it. So now that's why we have to invite the South Korean, our ally, to coming back to teach us how to build ships. A Japanese coming back to help us to do the nuclear energy plants, and then Taiwanese coming back to teach us how to do semiconductors. So
Because we gave it up.
we don't even know how to do it anymore. This is how screw up all this free trade. You see all these people talking about free trade for 10 and 20 years.
But
They
it's
are screwing up America.
it's never been free trade.
That's right.
It was always industrial warfare trade when it
That's
gets right
it.
down to it.
That's it.
And China was fighting and we were not fighting. We gave up. We
We
put
gave
up the white
up.
flag
That's
and
it.
said yes. And so there we are. There we sit. So for years, for a few years now, China's been going through this wolf warrior stage. I think pursuant to taking over the industrial world. I think once China had a sense that it had beaten us to the industry, that it now owns the industry that we can no longer do. It became really aggressive in its presentation to the world. It became a wolf warrior.
That's it.
You and I have watched that in numerous times over the years, at least certainly before Trump's second term here, that China would actually look down on us, and it was like kicking sand in our face at these international conferences. I remember when the Biden's Secretary of Defense flew from Washington, D.C., all the way to Singapore for the Shangri-La conference and was not even, and the Chinese Secretary of Defense wouldn't even shake his hand. I mean,
Uh,
it was
yeah, they
Lloyd
did.
Austin.
They did shake their hands, and then when the oil Austin, lawyer Austin,
Lloyd
right?
Austin, yeah.
But when the lawyer after they shake the hands, when the lawyer Austin star China, they're at the same table. And then when after they shake hands of each other, when lawyer Austin just start trying to make some conversation with them, with the Chinese defense minister, and he would just sit down and then pretend not even seeing who he's sitting with at the same table. He doesn't want to talk.
And so, with that power and strength and courage that China developed by becoming the industrial giant of the world, manufacturer to the world, it became the wolf warrior. Now, something has changed that caught my attention, Nansu. And this is a piece out of the Epoch Times uh, by titled "Beijing Softens Its Taiwan Message." I saw that and I thought, what? This from Sean Song Tseng, who writes, for 3 years, the Chinese official in charge of Taiwan policy used his speech at Beijing's largest cross-strait gathering to drive home one theme, a stern, repeated warning against Taiwanese independence. This year, he barely mentions it. As the CCP's 18th Strait Forum held this week in southeastern China, Wang Huning, Beijing's fourth-ranking leader and its top official on Taiwan, spoke instead of family ties, peaceful exchange, and the two sides of the Taiwan Strait growing closer. Now, what on earth precipitated that, do you think? I think I have a notion, and that notion is that the leader of the Taiwanese Independence Party went to visit Beijing here a month or two ago, right? Cheng Li-wen went to visit Beijing, and what do you think she told the leadership of the CCP?
Well,
I'll bet she told them that nobody was going to buy what you have to sell as long as you're selling it the way you're selling it. Nobody wants to become
I don't
part of.
follow you. I don't follow your logic.
Okay, so here's the leadership of the Taiwanese opposition party. This is
That's
the party
KMT party. That's a KMT party. Yes.
KMT, and they want to rebuild their relationship with China, with the CCP. And so the leader of the KMT goes to Beijing. And what do you suppose that she told them about how to develop better relationship with Taiwan?
No, no, no. They're not. Xi Jinping is not telling her how to.
No, Xi Jinping is not telling her, she's telling them. I think she's telling them, if you want to establish a better relationship with Taiwan and maybe even, talk us into joining you or whatever, then you have to come up with a better way of communicating with us. Stop being so threatening and so ugly.
In your dreams,
Well, if
in your
if
dreams, in your dreams, Mr.
I think that's what she
Mr.
told
Olson.
them. I think that's
I
what she
think
told them.
you, I think it's in your dreams. I'm not sure who she is, but she's being, try to block. She's as the opposition leader. She tried to block the Taiwan's government to buy U.S. weapons,
Yes.
and this is the lady, and
This
she
is the
goes.
lady who wants to reunite with China.
That's it.
Okay.
And then she goes there. Basically, Xi Jinping is betting on her on 2028 to win the election.
Hmm.
At the next coming presidential election of Taiwan. I mean, if she does won, and then it's going to the war is
Okay.
going to.
Well, if that's the case, Nansu, what would she tell Xi Jinping on how he could help her win the election?
Well,
Don't you think she would tell him, listen, if you stop being such a bully, if you stop being so nasty toward Beijing or toward Taiwan, well, if why don't you try being nice to the people of Taiwan for a change?
no, no, she's helping Xi Jinping wherever Xi
She
Jinping.
is she is helping Beijing. That's her goal. Her goal is to get elected as president of Taiwan so she can really help reunite.
I think you get it totally wrong, Mr. Ocean.
Well, okay. Why would I get it wrong? What would she tell him on
She
how
doesn't have
Beijing could
any
help her.
power to tell Xi Jinping anything. She's a little puppy. She's
Oh,
the
but
little
she's a very
puppy.
powerful puppy.
No, she's not.
If she could win the presidency of Taiwan,
She's not going to be. Taiwan's surveys basically shows more than 90% of the people don't want to, become, uh, you know, uh, don't want to reunify with Taiwan,
well, and that's
with
with
China.
China. And of course,
So
that's
while she is
exactly.
there, she is there basically trying to present herself as the leader who can help China for the reunification purpose. She wanted China to support her. They're trying and trying and trying again, but I don't think she's going to success. Now, however, on the other side of it, the so-called the tune down of China's rhetoric of reunification of Taiwan. It's not because KMT party's leader visited China.
No, of
That's
course not.
because it's totally not. It got nothing to do with her. Right? It got
Except,
nothing to do with her. The reason that China turned down, of its rhetoric on reunification of Taiwan is President Trump peace with
ah,
strategy. It's because China see United States naval force can blockade the whole Middle East. China will get 0 barrels of oil. We have that capability. And they don't get any oil from the
well, well,
Venezuela anymore. Right?
I think you're exactly right. I think China looks at what Trump did to Iran and says to itself, well, forget about invading this place. That ain't going to work for a while. Besides, look at the shape of our military. It's a catastrophe right now. Nothing works. The
Well, it's
radar doesn't work. The jets don't work. Nothing works.
well,
So
it's
there's no
well,
way
it's
we can beat Taiwan at this time. So how else can we beat Taiwan? By talking them into joining us.
So I think that they are trying to do all China is doing. It's the United Front work. Remember the word?
Yeah.
It's the United Front work purely. I think they trying to infiltrate into Taiwan because they realize military operation to invade Taiwan, it becomes really hard because the war is going to take a long time, and then China is facing a very strong prime minister in Japan, Takaichi,
Yep.
and very strong U.S. leader, that's the Donald J. Trump, and then Philippines coming along from with the United States, and then China doesn't have enough energy because their strategic oil reserve is like probably just like 3.5 months, and also Russia doesn't have enough oil to China. Russia every day their total daily production is 10.6 million barrels, and China's total import, not even the total consumption, the total import of oil is 11.6 million barrels. It's 1 million more than Russia's total production a day. So, so China doesn't, if they start a war, they're not going to get oil from anywhere. So
Well,
they
that's
can, now that they are still able, during last couple months of the war in the Middle East, that they are still able to get the oil from Canada and United States. They've been buying like 600,000 to 700,000 barrels a day from United States alone.
mhm.
But if they start a war with Taiwan, they're not going to get anything.
Well, that's my point exactly. China is not in a position to win a war over Taiwan at this time. Maybe later, maybe not. But it is not giving up its desire to take over Taiwan. So if it can't do it militarily at this time, how can it take over Taiwan? By talking the Taiwanese people into
They're not
giving up.
talking to Taiwanese people. They are infiltrating Taiwan.
Well, and this gal is exactly my point. And she is, well, here's a piece out of Associated Press. Taiwan's Beijing friendly opposition leader said Friday that her party is committed to the defense of the self ruled island that China views as its own, but that peace is possible by taking permanent secession off the table. Cheng Li Woon told reporters during a trip to Washington that the Kuomintang party she chairs shares a common ground with President Donald Trump, who said after his May trip to Beijing that he is not looking to have somebody go independent or to fight a war thousands of miles away. I think our basic stances are the same: peace and stability of the Taiwan Strait and to avoid any
That's a
unnecessary
big
war.
lie.
Yes,
That's a big lie. I see.
and she's very
But
good at it.
she always, well, because the media did not cover the full story. She also, during her speech to many, believe me, I have my reporters at the spot. We wrote more accurate report than the Associated Press. Now that every speech she made when she visited the Taiwanese society here in the United States, she openly criticized the so-called Cold War, Cold, Cold War mentality. Think about why they're doing that.
Sure.
She's criticizing, she criticized Donald Trump. She's not, she's just like using, promote one part of the Donald Trump and then criticize a part of Donald Trump, all for the purpose of, you know,
Dividing and conquering.
that's right. Basically she is acting as a representative for Xi Jinping. That's what it is.
Yes. Yes. So my guess, and it's just a guess, is that when she went to Beijing, she told the good folks over there, look, stop the wolf warrior crap because it's just pissing everybody off. Nobody wants to be part of you when you're talking about us like that.
I don't think she's even able to tell Xi Jinping that. She basically go there to um because Beijing is not going to stop. Because just look at the case we just talked about.
They're not
They
going to
they
stop.
have they are in the South China Sea. They are in the near Philippines. They are in the Japanese East Japan East China Sea near Japan, and they're all around Taiwan. That's what exactly the United Front work it's about.
Yes.
They need to have that. They need to have that threat so that which will create a divide inside the Taiwanese society, which
Yes.
they created. You see the girl, who is the leader of a KMT party. They chicken out. So that's how she went to Beijing. She tried to get some sort of a sugarcoating of the relationship, which doesn't work.
Well, wait a minute, because that's what she got from the person in charge of the Taiwan policy. Instead of using his usual wolf warrior talk about you Taiwanese better get it out of your head that you're going to be an independent nation because you're not. That's what he's been saying for years and years and years. And she goes to Beijing and comes back. And when he does his speech at the Taiwanese Strait conference, he says, "Let's talk about family ties between you and us. Let's talk about peaceful exchange. Let's talk about how we can get together and work together along the Taiwanese Strait." So all of a sudden, Beijing, by virtue of the man in charge of the Taiwan policy, is talking about a peaceful coexistence instead of we're going to rule over you and take you over. So I think this gal, who's one clever gal, went and told the CCP Just change your tone and you'll be able to change the attitude. So she is a cultural warrior on the side of the CCP, no doubt about it. And
That's it.
she's handing the CCP a different way of fighting. So instead of being belligerent fools, why don't you try being a little diplomatic to the people of Taiwan, and maybe they won't be so frightened of you.
Well, Xi Jinping, the only reason Xi Jinping is changing is because China's economy going down, and then President Trump showed China we have enough strength to stop you, and you're not going to get any oil. So that's all Xi Jinping listened to. Yeah, that you have to the only way of dealing with a war, it's a war.
It's a war,
That's it. China started this unrestricted warfare against the United States ever since the mid 90s, right? So the only way we can stop the war, it's what President Trump has been doing, the military operations in Venezuela and military operations in Iran. Basically, it's a reality show there, showing China if they want to start war in Taiwan Strait or East China Sea near Japan or South China Sea, they're not going to get any oil at all.
right? And that's why they're talking nice. If
Yeah.
we can, if we can, they have to come up with a different way of fighting because they realize after seeing what happened in Venezuela, after seeing what happened in Iran, that they just don't have the wherewithal to waltz right into Taiwan and take it over. They have to come up with a different way of doing it. And so this gal, the leader of the Taiwanese Kuomintang Party, says, "Look, quit being such grumpy old farts and speak nice to the people of Taiwan, and maybe they won't be so antithetical to your desires."
What she does is she criticizes the so-called Cold War mentality.
Right.
She's not trying to change the behavior of Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping's behavior already changed because
Okay.
after seeing what Donald Trump has been doing, Xi Jinping's behavior already changed. So what this girl does is she criticized the so-called Cold War mentality. She's trying to change Donald Trump's behavior, not Xi
And Xi
Jinping's
Jinping.
behavior.
And Xi Jinping's, yes. I
No,
agree with you.
Xi Jinping's behavior already changed even before she went to Beijing.
Okay. Well,
Not that she has no capacity of changing Xi Jinping's behavior.
okay. Well, speaking of the behavior of the CCP in the South China Sea, Philippines is pushing back as Beijing's carrot and strategy falters. I guess that's what I was trying to say about the new approach to Taiwan has been the stick. This is where we're going to pound you with the stick if you don't go along with us. That's been what Chinese cross-strait relationship has been with Taiwan.
See, the
Now,
Chinese military behavior around Taiwan is not really changing much,
no, it hasn't.
but their tone, the way they talk about Taiwan, softened a little bit.
That's what's softening. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So instead of the stick, there's more carrot being offered.
right. That's right.
And that's what's being offered the Philippines as well. So this is a commentary in the Epoch Times by Wang He. Relations between Philippines and China have grown even more strained in 2026. Beijing appears eager to stabilize ties with Manila, but it has shown little willingness to make meaningful concessions. Instead, it has offered limited economic incentives while continuing military pressure in the South China Sea. The approach has largely backfired, prompting a tougher response from the Philippines and leaving Beijing increasingly frustrated. And we're talking, of course, about the Scarborough Shoal standoff, wherein Beijing is building military bases out of coral atolls throughout the South China Sea there. So, does Beijing have enough money to buy off the rest of the countries in the South China Sea?
No, of course they don't. Right now, the key here is they're using every way they could. Now, the main reason going after Taiwan is not just the semiconductor chip, but they are really aiming on, taking over South China Sea because
Yeah,
they already openly claim, the China 90% of the South China Sea it's China's sovereignty. They already make
we
the
own it all.
yeah, they
We
own
own
it
it
all,
all.
right?
Yeah.
So it's like a 12 miles for all the countries around South China Sea. Hey, you listen, 12 miles from your coastal line, that's China's sovereignty. That's what they claim. So, the international court already, ruled that Beijing's claim is baseless in 2016. That's the ruling of 2016. Now that, but China's still doing that. They don't care. So their military provocative behavior has not calmed down. But however, they soften their terms a little bit. After seeing what Trump has been doing in Venezuela and Middle East.
Well, good. Then we've got somewhere with Trump then. But there appears to be a lot of resistance developing. One interesting piece that I ran into was a story about Chinese. Uh, where am I here? Chinese military. Uh, it was a story about. Here it is. China. Uh, it was Long March. March. I lost the story. It was a story about Chinese or media shutting down in a province in China because people quit listening to it. So, television and radio, state sponsored media, people simply quit listening to it. Do you think we'll get to a point where Chinese people will simply quit listening to the CCP? Ah, here it is.
Well, that's a rosy picture. I don't have the optimism over there. Hey, that's going to take a long time. Just look at Cuba, look at all the communist nations. Their brainwash it doesn't have to go through their TV or their or radio wherever they go from every channel, from the education, from everything. So I really don't have much of interest to this kind of news. That's just too much of a rosy picture. Uh,
Oh, you think? Well, here's the a quick lead on the story. Several state-run television and radio channels in central China's Hubei province will cease operations at the end of June, a move that observers say reflects mounting financial pressures on China's traditional media system and the declining influence of the Chinese Communist Party's long-standing propaganda apparatus.
I will ignore the last part. It's just the financial situation.
It
That's
is the financial
they don't
situation.
have money, they don't have money, and then the main reason is really the central Chinese government is running out of money. China, they have like 180 trillion debt, total debt, central government and local government together. No, the central government they just admitted they have like 100 trillion in their 100 trillion in debt. China 100 trillion yen, not the US dollar. So And then on top of that, they have the local government debt. So altogether, Goldman Sachs estimated like a close to 180 trillion. And last year, 2025, China's total after-tax income, the total after-tax income of entire China's population, it's near 65 trillion yen. So and that was it. So they are running out of money, and their real estate industry collapse. Now that we seeing Beijing, Shanghai, and all these the class one, top class
Yeah,
cities,
tier one cities.
tier one cities drop close to 40%. Now that tier two, uh, 60, tier three, close to 80%. Now we give you, just like I mentioned a couple times in our show that there's a Huizhou city in Canton that's on the right on the beach. Those expensive apartments right on the beach, like it's like the high the exclusive ranking of apartments right built right on the Waikiki beach. That it's like that kind of apartments. Just 3 years ago, 2023, it's 1.3 million yen, and now it's less than 300,000. So that's like an 80% drop. And
That's a major
yeah,
collapse.
yeah, it's a major collapse. And then everywhere I seen lately they have been coming out from China and advertisement in all different ways, attracting the overseas Chinese people going back to China to buy all this real estate. In some of I look it through, some of the cities, small cities, it only costs you what, uh, 50,000 yen, you can buy like a two-bedroom apartment, which is what, 80,000, $7,000, some US dollars.
So
So,
these are not actual purchases, they're long-term leases, correct?
well, well, you can, in China, they say you can purchase 70 years of user right.
Yeah.
But usually they will extend it. Usually they will extend it. Once you buy it, come on, if you're 30s, you buy it. It's like it's basically it's forever yours for your, at least for your own life, right? And it's so cheap over there. The living expense is just so cheap. You go to the restaurant, you can have a banquet for less than like a 300 yen. 300 yen is what, like a $50
Yeah.
US dollars. So those are the places, they say this is a heaven for retirement. So that's their slogan to attract the foreign the Chinese people here living in the United States to go back to buy those
Well,
things.
do you see any in your expat community? Do you see any desire to do that?
I don't know. I don't know if they are, but think
How
because
about non-Sue?
I can't go back to China. I can't get a visa, right? So now here is the issue. Right now, it what to the what will make the people make a decision? It's not how cheap China is. It's really the U.S.-China relation, right? People don't want to invest in China because what if there'll be a war that breaks out tomorrow in the Western Pacific? All the money you invest in China, there's no return.
Oh.
But maybe I think maybe there are Chinese here in the United States. They do want to go back to China to buy some, like the apartment in the cheap price, maybe for their parents. That could
Okay.
be a
They have
possibility
parents
because
that live there. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If they have their parents, and then they need to take care of their parents, or maybe they're if they have relatives who are not able to make the investment, they will make for them. So that could be a good solution.
So if property collapses by 80% and nobody's buying the properties at the new low price, that would indicate that the Chinese people really are hard pressed at the moment.
It's true. I mean, think about that. Used to be, 3 years ago, like 70% of their wealth, their family wealth, 70%.
70%.
It's in the real estate investment, right? But now they think about that, that's like if they bought a first tier city, that's like a 40% drop. And if they purchase, third tier city, that's like 80% drop of their personal wealth.
And if you've lost 80% of your personal wealth, all of your assets, all of your boy, you're looking at a whole change of how you see the world.
Yeah, it's correct. And
You-
yeah, yeah,
You're
that
not
that
going to the movies quite so often. You're not
yeah.
doing,
Well, see, that's what happened. You see that in China, like in Shanghai, in Beijing, uh, some of those I look at, they have videos,
yeah,
the YouTubers, they make these videos. They recently went to their like it's like a downtown most busy street. There's a lot of restaurants, those places, a lot of restaurants, a lot of shops, a lot of a place for entertainment, like a karaoke, those kind of a bar, those place. Basically now it's going down so much, like after 8 o'clock in the evening it's like a ghost town. Even Hong Kong is. I have a relative just recently came back from Hong Kong. Hong Kong, it's a city.
oh
you know,
boy.
no,
Yeah.
no, they never turn off the light.
One of the most exciting places on earth. When
Right.
I visited it
Yeah.
anyway, it was
Yeah,
like,
he came back and he told me after like 8 o'clock in the evening, it's a ghost town.
well, Nancy, we have a short minute left. What do you see happening in the coming week between our countries, or China and the United States? Any big events happening?
I think I don't think there will be any big events happening with China. I think President Trump and his team is going to be busy to get this negotiation done, to get all everything implemented, to get the uranium, enrich the
Yeah,
uranium in Iran somehow, to dilute it, or carry them out of the country.
yeah. And
So
the big thing is get turned around and start focusing on the domestic economy so he can win the fall elections and continue. Because if we lose the fall elections, then we're probably going to be in real big trouble. But anyway, that's the way I see it. And I'm
I
sure there
that
are
that's
others who
I
see it
think
other
that's a
ways.
very hard battle. So there is no incentive for the stock market to grow anymore.
But we'll be back next week on China Now. Thank you, Nansu. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Great to hear from you, and away we go. 再见，好同志们。